Hey everybody, it's been a long road. I'm Devin, that's Victoria, and we are here at the end of the most important album number. It's the end of album 69.
Nice.
And it is California Dreams, parts 1 and 2, and album review.
We were pretty wrong about the majority of our predictions for this one, like how we didn't really think Jules would actually leave, and she leaves within like the first 2 minutes, and there's no way I would have predicted like anything that happened to this episode,
I was very surprised at the fact that we spend almost no time in Odyssey.
Yeah. And also like, okay, well, who wrote this?
So episode 902, California Dreams, part 1, written by, of course, Kathy Buchanan.
The Queen.
Yes.
So in this episode, it opens with Buck listening to Jules's music from the song she just wrote and sung at the Westcott's concert.
Mm-hmm.
She's been writing like music that they've all been singing, and Buck is still like playing music at those shows too.
Okay, I was going to ask you because I couldn't remember if he was playing the guitar for the Westcotts because he kept talking about being part of the group. But I'm like, we were just like, man, Buck's learning the guitar.
He didn't know how to play the guitar back then. I think he was just kind of like
just looking pretty in the background.
Them,
just
like
air
guitar or whatever. But I think that since Eugene taught him how to play guitar and he was playing guitar for Jules, we can kind of infer that he joined the group too as a musician.
Okay, I was confused about that. I was like, was he playing the guitar before and we forgot? Because last episode we were like...
Yeah. So I don't think they would have made a point to mention that he's like learning a guitar in the last episode if it wasn't a new thing. I don't know. We can always go back and...
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Well, that's why I was wondering if he did something else with them to like help them out that I couldn't remember.
No, I think it was mostly just Jules, and he was like simping for the whole 2 parts. I love Buck so much. He's so good. I like him so much more than Jules, but like I think that's just because he's been on the show longer and he's more mature than she is. So he gets into a lot less drama than she does.
He deserves so many good things, and so does Jules. But like,
so does Jules.
Buck has been through it, guys.
So like, this episode starts with Buck and Jules getting in a fight. It hurt me.
It is a heck of a spat. All right.
It hurt me.
They say some very unkind things to each other.
She calls him a hick and a country bumpkin who had a toothpick shoved in his mouth for the first 6 months that like they knew each other, basically. Which the toothpick thing is true. Honestly, I kind of thought he got rid of them.
It's the first time it's been addressed since like album 53.
It was kind of... It was a little funny, but like also very hurtful. So
I do like that she like adds on the toothpick comment, and Buck is like, like.
Buck is like, excuse you, I don't even know what a toothpick is.
You attack me in my own home.
We got some like, I don't know if I'd say good because not really much happened, but we got some Connie Buck interactions in this episode. I was like, yes, give me those Aunt Connie nephew Buck interactions. Heck yes. Still need more Jules and Eugene interactions. So Connie and Jules are getting ready to go to church. We hear Jillian is already at church, and my brain stopped for the next 2 minutes. Unfortunately, Jillian wasn't
in the episode.
Actually, in the episode, but just the mere mention of her name sustained me. So like that, I feel like that confirms that Jillian is a Christian. Probably, maybe.
Or it confirms that she's just going with the other people with whom she lives.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out soon, eventually, I guess. But, like, if she is a Christian, then, like, all my fears of her and Jason possibly not working out are pretty much
they're going to end up together.
I know, but, like, It would be so much less messy if she was a Christian already.
Yeah, because,
then he won't be like, I've already done this twice.
If I know anything about any relationship on this show, it's that there's literally any way that it can just go easy and smoothly. Except for Jack and Joanne. That was pretty just
Connie.
like... What? Well, that was... I wouldn't say that was smooth.
Oh, I thought you said, like, relationships that aren't smooth.
No, I'm saying Jack and Joanne had pretty much the only relationship.
Jack and Joanne were the easiest relationship in this entire series. Like, even... You know what? He was probably, like, so surprised because, like, him and Emmy took so much time. But that was mostly because he didn't know that she liked him.
Yeah, and he gave her an elevator. I mean, that's a pretty strong kind of, aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
Shellfish and elevators.
Our, like, oldest Odyssey joke, our oldest Odyssey in-joke. There's so many in-jokes we have since starting this podcast, but I feel like that's our only in-joke that's
from before,
longer than the podcast.
You're right. I didn't really think about the fact that that's not something that originated
No, we
well
started
before
saying
the
that
podcast.
when we were kids.
That's true.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, I just completely lost my train of thought. So Jan comes to Connie's house, and she's just like, I'll be taking my daughter, please. And Connie's like, can I say goodbye? And she's like, nope. And then she takes Jules.
It was such, like, miraculous energy when Chloe's mom finally shows up and starts, like, harassing and being picky about fashion all over Chloe, and Chloe just, like, gets zapped into mom-pleasing mode. Was all of the vibes that I was getting off of that as soon as Jan walked in.
I don't think I ever watched that episode.
There were several episodes with Chloe's mom.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Connie is just like, you can, like, Katie kills it in this scene because she's, like, trying to be strong and not cry, but you can hear that she's, like, getting really choked up in her voice, and it just goes so many feelings. Like, not even to mention the fact that Connie was the only person with Jules when she left. Mm-hmm. So Jules is like, say goodbye to Jillian and Penny, and those are the only people I care about. Goodbye. and then she leaves. I was starting to wonder if, like, it just wouldn't come back to Odyssey at all, but I was right that was, like, my one prediction that was right, that it would, like, cut back to Buck at some point.
Well, I think that's pretty obvious. Which I feel like is a
pretty given prediction, so it shouldn't even count for points. Well, Jules finds out her mom got her back because her mom's engaged to an animal. What's his name again? Like
Coyote.
Wolf or Coyote.
Kai for short. Which I spelt it Kai when I was writing notes because I'm not writing C. I'm not writing COY to abbreviate his name. I refuse.
Yeah, so she's engaged to this guy named Kai, and he likes kids. So she brought Jules, and I got such rancid vibes off this guy. He
does not have the vibes.
He did not pass my vibe check in any way. There was, like, one moment where he was just like, yeah, we'll just get married whenever you're cool with it. And then, Jules is like, why did you bring me here? You don't even like me. And her mom's just like, oh, he wanted to meet you. And I was like, I don't like this guy.
See, I thought it was interesting because as soon as her mom was like, ooh, I'm with someone, I was like, I knew it's going to be, like, some relationship or something, and she needs, like, a kid back so she can have, like, oh, look at me, I'm a nice, happy family, like, Basset Hounds kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Look at how put together we are. And then this guy shows up, and he's, like, really polite, and he's like, I understand this is a lot for you, so I don't want things to move any faster than you're comfortable with, and I was the one who asked to bring you here because I didn't want you to have to be separated from your family. And I was like, he actually sounds surprisingly legit because I was expecting really bad vibes, but I was like, he actually seems like...
I was expecting bad vibes, and then that scene happened, and I was just like, good vibes?
Yeah.
good vibe, like I'm a bird or something
But
like that,
then-
feeling out the situation.
Yeah.
And then like the
Tapping
next scene, I
your
was
foot
just like,
in front of you where you're like,
where I'm like testing ice to see if it's cracking or
Yeah.
not. And I'm like, oh, it's not cracking. And then I take a step, and I take another step, and it's the rest of the episode, and I just crash into the ice. So I was gonna say so. I thought when her mom was like, I'm seeing someone and I want you to meet him, I thought it was gonna either be Bill. Best case scenario,
oh no.
Bill. Think about that. Worst case scenario, somehow Mr. Skint was what I was so worried about. I was like, I don't know how, I don't know why, but like, what if? What if, like, imagine me, I adopted you and raised you, and your childhood was awful, and then you got me thrown in jail, and then I broke out, and then to get revenge on you, I
married your mom,
your girlfriend's mom, and adopted your girlfriend and ruined her life. like
Mr. Skint's your dad now.
Could you imagine, like, Buck comes to visit where he's on like a Skype call, and then it's just because has Jules ever seen Mr. Skint before?
Probably, I don't remember.
Like, she might not have. So then, like, just imagine she's on like a Skype call, and then like with Buck, and then in walks Kai, and Buck's just like, "That's Mr. Skint."
I've never been so shook in my life, Victoria. What the concept that you've just introduced into my life, I've not experienced peace since. Snakes have been manifesting physically inside my house.
Yeah, so that was.
It's even funnier
seeing. I said best case the finesse. Do you get why I said best case Bill? Like, are you crying?
Trying to picture Connie's mom being like just falling for Mr. Skint, like their personalities.
You mean Jules's mom?
Sorry?
You said Connie's mom. You mean Jules's
Jan,
mom?
yeah. Trying to picture Jan and like her, like, you're wearing those shoes with that top. I thought I taught you better, Jules. And then being like
he's just wearing overalls and gumboots and nothing else.
Seduced by Mr. Skint. It's such a powerful image.
Except for like he grew back the mustache, so when Buck sees him on the Skype call at first he doesn't recognize
him until he like takes a razor and shaves it off, and he's like, "Parry the Skint." Oh man, Victoria, you really blew my bean there.
We don't know Skint's first name. Could be Coyote.
We
Honestly,
do.
I feel
it's
like
Jebediah.
No, shut up. We don't know his first name. I feel
Coyote,
like Coyote's a
Jebediah,
name that
Skint.
suits him. We don't know his first name. It's Coyote.
So
until proven otherwise, I'm just gonna say that's Mr. Skint. Did I just ruin your life?
You made my life. What a welcome. Concept. It's literally, it's so series of unfortunate events.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
This is your new dad. Hello, madam. My name is Mr. Spint.
That's Count Olaf. And he's like, no, it's Mr. Spint. Shut up, kid.
I have a very central United States of America neutral accent that does not sound like it's from any particular region in particular. Welcome to Los Angeles.
He's so nefarious. No, a nefarious person wouldn't have a mustache like this. And then Mr. Poe's like, I mean, he's right.
That's wit. Mr. Poe.
Oh no. Oh man. So yeah, that was my big brain moment during the episode.
I was just editing the first part of the Rydell Revelations, and in the first part, I was like, I mean, a little while ago, I would have said Wit would never like non-consensually like to use the imagination box to, like, you know, trap someone's mind and just kind of like grab them out of the air. But, you know, he does do all sorts of things now. So, like, who knows what'll happen. And then me having heard all 3 parts now was like king.
Are you saying this because you're just going to wait for part 2 now where it turns out I was right and Kai is Mr. Skint? Dude, I have had so many Buckwild predictions on this podcast.
I know.
Can you imagine if I was somehow correct?
Anyway, so
I don't think I am, by the way.
Kai and Jen and Jules are all hanging out. They're having an awesome time. And then Jules starts singing in the fridge when she's putting the sushi away.
I liked how they got quieter as she walked away. I thought that was just her leaving the room and coming back. I guess it kind of was, but it was also just like them being starstruck. So Kai's just like, I'm a talent scout, and girl, you got it. I'm gonna
she's
make
got
you
it.
famous. And then she starts recording, and they're just like, that's good, but what if it was synth and all these other things?
She's like, I wrote a song, it's called I'm Just Me. There's no kind of broader episode lesson symbolism here.
And so then also there's like this theme of Jules caring about like too much what other people think about her and her not listening to that. And Connie's just like, well, why are you so upset? And Jules is like, Buck said it to me. And Connie's like, so you're upset about the thing that someone else said to you that you're upset about other things, blah, blah, blah. And Jules is like, I don't get what your point is.
Jules is like, also, you're not my mom, and then Jan kicks in the door.
They had some good sibling interactions in this episode. I felt that. We haven't gotten that in a while from these two. So Jules is gonna like perform as an opener for like this pop star who I forgot to mention in the summary, who was mentioned at the beginning of part 1 by Buck, because Buck was like, that guy's a hack and I hate him. And then Jules is going to be the opener for him. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love his music. And Kai's like, oh, that's good because you're dating now. Go. And he like pushes her on stage. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And then the episode ends. And I was just like,
he doesn't, yes. The concert isn't happening yet. They're still in her, like, trying on outfits, aren't they, at this point?
No, I thought they were at the concert.
I think this is like, still when she's finding out that she's going to be at the concert. And she wasn't opening for him. She was, like, opening for the opener for him, or for the opener for him. Anyways, I think it's supposed to be Justin Bieber, is the implication.
I couldn't figure out who it was supposed to be.
Because the other person they mentioned was Taylor Quake, which is obviously Taylor Swift. And then they're like...
Man, if they think Justin Bieber... I'm sorry, Kathy, but like Justin Bieber's not been popular for a very, very long time.
He still makes a lot of like chart-topping music.
He made Yummy, and that was like one of the most hated songs of the year, basically. The reason why it got like so much publicity was because he was actually begging people to like his music and listen to it over TikTok and his Twitter and literally like everything, all the social media he has. He was just like, I just want you to go on Spotify and just put it on loop all night, because he wanted it to be number 1 so bad.
Clap.
And then like Selena Gomez did something like that too a couple weeks later, and some other people have been doing stuff like that because they want to be number 1.
I'll grant you, obviously.
And none of them still beat the Red Dead song.
Grant, obviously Despacito was like a little while ago now at this point.
That was a very long time ago. It's still a meme, but it's kind of
yeah. But I mean, he has had like quite a few big songs that have come out. I wouldn't say he's like. I was gonna say not like the Jonas Brothers, but they did just. So it was a bad example. Anyways, my point is, his name, Jet Valentine, doesn't sound like anyone's famous name, but the initials are JB, and they're talking about how he's like a young pop star. I thought it was
Jet Valentine.
Valentine, they're saying with a B.
Oh.
So I was like, I can't think of anyone whose name sounds like that, but the
Bieber.
initials are JB. And then Buck was like, he's a hack. His music's nonsense.
Like,
she's like, but it's
it
catchy
is Justin Bieber.
And people really like it. And I
will say there are a couple Justin Bieber songs that I don't think are bad. And I do like Despacito, but he's not really like singing in that song.
Yeah, I mean, he's not,
much.
It's not just his song, it's multiple artists.
Also, if you look up the lyrics, like the translations for the lyrics to that song, it is one like the smuttiest things ever. Don't look up the translations. So,
yeah, I forgot about the dating thing at the end. So that's where the episode ends.
There's like this trilogy that just wrapped up last month called Once Upon a Con that's been releasing a book every couple of years for the past like 4 years. And they're all like different fairy tale retellings, but related to a convention for this fictional like Star Trek, Star Wars kind of combined series. And they're like so good. And the second one was Princess and the Pauper. So, like, the actress, like, there was an actress and, like, a fangirl, and the fangirl and the actress looked alike, so they swapped places. And then the fangirl, posing as the actress for a publicity thing, had to pretend to be dating, like, the guy who played the villain in the movie, who was, like, a new character in that book. And then he was, like, really rude to her and stuff, so then she just, like, poured a milkshake on his head inside, like, a diner, and a bunch of paparazzi, like, saw it. And then, like, the third book was half from his point of view, and it was, like, a Beauty and the Beast retelling.
Moving to the point, that's really...
Anyway, they had an awful relationship, and they were fake dating in the second book, and then that girl appeared again in the third book, and she was his best friend, and it was the ultimate enemies to best friends relationship I've read in a long time.
Fake dating AUs.
Something probably won't happen. It was like fake dating friendship because they aren't a couple. They're both with other people.
It's still it's still fake dating AU.
Pretty much fake dating, yeah. So like I'd love for something like that to happen with Jules, but I feel like that's not gonna happen at all. It's just gonna go real bad. Hopefully not over live broadcast, but probably over live broadcast. Jules grabs a mic, and then, you know what's gonna happen?
She's gonna promote herself? What?
She's gonna sart, like, a cappella singing her This
song?
Is
probably.
Me song, like it's the Hannah Montana movie at the concert.
And then she's gonna plug her FaceBase page. And be like, everyone unfollow Valerie Swanson. So at the...
Valerie's gonna be choked when she finds it.
When she sees Jules performing on the pre-show.
Actually, you know what Valerie's gonna do? She's gonna be like, I knew her. Best friends with her.
Yeah, you're right. So at the beginning, we have the fight with Jules and Buck, and it gets pretty nasty. And then
I didn't think it would get that bad. And also, it kind of almost came out of nowhere. They just started, like, abruptly fighting, and I was like, holy crap.
Well, Buck got hurt clearly not because, like, he was like, you need to honor your commitments to a group that you signed up for.
Arguing. They just went at it. Like, it escalated a lot more quickly than I thought it would.
It did escalate quickly, yeah. But when Jules is, like, at home and she's waiting to get ready, and Connie's like, can you pass me the last donut? And Jules is like, I didn't think you'd mind if I ate the last donut. And I was like, clearly Jules has learned literally not the first thing about her sister in the time that they have lived together.
It would be funny if Connie was just like, oh, you did? Okay.
You're going back to California.
Texts Jan. She's like, get her out of my house.
Interesting. Yeah, she's trying to, like, hurry her up out the door. She's like, put your shoes on. She's like, I don't know what they are. She's like, use the flats. And she's like, these shoes don't work, see? And Connie was like, the shoes protect your feet from sharp objects. They work fine. And I was like, me. Thank you, Connie. We also find out Jan shows up, all whatever her name, Bourgeois. I don't remember what her mom's name is. But apparently her last name is still Kendall, which I found very surprising.
Yeah, and apparently she stopped believing in love after Bill broke up with her. I get that it's like a process to change your last name, but if you stop believing in love,
it did make
and
me
swear
wonder
off
if they're
men,
even. I mean, he's sending alimony checks. Do you think? So they're probably like formally divorced, right? Not just separated.
I feel like they're.
I imagine so, especially because it sounded like the relationship lasted for such a short time, because Bill was like, I don't even remember where Jan fit into the timeline of other women.
I do not like that man.
Yeah, so I thought it was my only guess about why she kept the name, maybe, is because we've learned now that Bill is actually quite well off and business connection-wise and stuff like that currently, so I thought maybe she was just trying to keep it as kind of like social sway. You know, get her name on reservations or stuff like that. So that was my only guess as to like why she would keep it. Otherwise, I assume she would want to wash her hands of everything involving Billiam Kendall. So yeah, Jan shows up and she's like, come on, Jules, we're going. And she just never explains for the longest time
like
why.
Mean Girls, like,
yeah, get in, loser, we're going to Los
California.
Angeles. Like, she doesn't explain why she's just suddenly decided to show up to take Jules now out of nowhere. Like, I was like, I'm sure there's some awful reason that we're going to learn of, but if I was...
and even Connie is just like, I thought you didn't really, like, Jules lives here. And then even Jules was just like, I thought you didn't like me. And she's like, aha, Jules, you're so funny.
I was like, if I was Jules or Connie, that would be my very first question, is like, why are you here now? Like, what's the catch?
I feel like Connie wouldn't want to get into that in front of Jules.
I guess. I don't know. I just thought it was weird. And Jules...
She had a one-on-one moment with Jan. And it wasn't literally just like, I'm taking my daughter. I feel like Connie was pretty like
there's nothing I can do. Yeah, like, I'm powerless here because you're mom. I'm just her half sister. So,
and like legally speaking, Connie has no say in anything. And Connie's probably taken several legal classes, considering how many different things she's taking classes on. So, do you think Connie has more of an education than Eugene at this point?
Well, Eugene spent like his whole life just like studying continuously. Like, remember, it wasn't just like he got a degree, like he just kept on
He's not studying anymore.
We don't know that. Up until he was hired as a professor, he was studying from before the show began all the way up until like the hiatus. He was still taking classes continuously for different stuff.
And Connie...
I'm sure he's taken every single course number at Campbell College at this point. He even started doing philosophy classes at a point, and psychology.
Yeah, okay, never mind. I don't really have much else to say. I feel bad for Buck.
Yeah, we do get to the point where it cuts back, and Buck is like hurt and flabbergasted because he's like, well, obviously, you know, it was just like a little fight. Like, I didn't think she was going to leave me for California.
Also, I like that they actually, like, said what they are to each other in this episode, because they've never really put it into words. They both called each other their best friend.
Yeah.
So,
so Connie,
I was like, oh, that's nice.
Connie was like, call her. And Buck's like, fine. And then he's like, she didn't pick up. Why don't you leave a message? I don't know what to say. And, like, I like how Connie's just like, communicate with each other. Don't make me play the rap. I'll do it. No. Talk to each other. Buck is like, please, no. My delicate country ears can't take the rap one more time.
I just imagine, like, they open the record box and then it just starts spewing out the unholy music and everyone's faces start melting off like it's that one scene from Indiana Jones.
So here's my question for you, Victoria, in terms of plot and predictions.
Yeah.
Do you think, because we know that Jules has been like posting all of her music online and stuff like that, they pointed out in last episode and they talked about it at the beginning of this episode, do you think that Kai asked Jan to bring Jules back because he had seen her singing and was like, I want to take advantage of her career, because he was the one who asked her to come back. We know she's been posting her stuff online, and when she started singing, he was the one... No,
dude, that's why I said, like, he had really rancid vibes.
Well, I thought you were talking about right at the beginning, and I was confused, because like, I thought it was really nice at the beginning.
No, I was talking about, like, my current opinion of him.
Yeah, as soon as she started...
He is very rancid vibes. And, like, poor Jules she didn't have a lot of positive enforcement growing up and was neglected a lot. And then she finally, like, gets it going to Odyssey. And then she sings the song, and she's, like, in such a vulnerable position.
She's like,
this is what she wants her career to be. And then she's like, what do you think? And he's just like, give me a sec. I'll see if we like it. And I was just like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah, because as soon as she starts singing, he's the one who's immediately like, Jan, shut up, let her sing, listen to her. I need to sign her on. You may not realize this, but I'm a talent agent, which I know is a crazy coincidence.
I want
and now he's going to be a
Jules
predatory...
to pull a Kesha and get Kai thrown in jail, especially since he's evil. And then she just does her own thing music-wise.
She's going to be a roadrunner and meep away from that Coyote.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to become your predatory parent-child star manager archetype. And yeah, they're like, you're going for this aesthetic now where it's like you wear like recycling stuff and you're like really earthy but also tech, and you're like, we're going to like rebel and destroy the earth to save the earth.
It's like they were trying to get her to dress up like a tiny Lady Gaga, basically.
Yeah, well, that was my first thought when they were like, here's a vest made out of aluminum
like
cans.
Very extreme, made of weird things.
I feel like apart from Lady Gaga, we haven't seen that kind of like really like kitschy, weird fashion for musicians since like the mid-2000s.
Not anyone on her level, but people do dress up like very out of the box, kind of, for lots of shows.
Yeah, I feel like the level of what they were saying there, apart from Lady Gaga, hasn't really existed, though, in the music sphere since, like, 2006 Kids' Choice Awards kind of fashion.
I mean, Lady Gaga still does dress up like that. She did that show
apart from Lady Gaga is what
earlier this week. Okay.
What did she do earlier this week?
Oh, she and Ariana Grande were doing, like, a concert, and, did you not see any pictures? They were, like, trending and stuff. Oh. I'm going to show you what her masks looked like.
Okay.
Because she had, like, a bunch of different masks and outfits, and they were
good.
Insane. Yeah, everyone's wearing masks. I don't know how the singing worked, but...
They put the mic inside the mask like Griffin wearing the horse head.
It looks like she has, like, she's a robot from Futurama, kind of, and... I'm sending you a picture if this actually works. You can put it like up on the screen. That is the longest URL ever. That sucks. Okay, look at the one on the right. That was what she had on for the concert. And like when she sang, it would like warble the line. And then she got a bunch of awards. And then like the mask on the left, there are a bunch of like other outfits like that.
She looks like a mantis shrimp.
Awards. They all looked like scuba diver gear, like all the ones she was wearing when she accepted masks.
The one with the black, it looks like a cross between Bane and Dewey when he's wearing the Daft Punk helmet at Scrooge's birthday party.
Yeah. So, and then Ariana Grande was behind her, and she just had, like, the most plain store-bought mask looking possible in comparison to Lady Gaga's robot face.
I love Lady Gaga.
Me too. She's great. I like her music and I like her as a person.
Yeah.
Which is the best combination.
So, that's part one. Yeah, like I said, and you said predictions. I think that Kai knew that Jules was a singer and he purposefully, like, pressured her to be brought to LA because he wanted to try and, like, take advantage of her as a manager. And I think that Jules is going to have some extremely public snafu with JB. And, like, Buck's going to see it on TV or something. I don't know. They're going to be talking about it at school.
Buck's going to see it on TV. He's going to call her. And he's going to be, like, jealous. Or, yeah, he's definitely going to be jealous. Because he's going to see something out of context.
Well, yeah, because you're going to be watching all this, like, manipulated...
And then he, like, turns it off. And then a second later, Jules on public TV is just like, I don't want to be with you. And but, like, maybe Buck, worst case scenario for ultimate lack of conversation points is, okay, that happens. But then right after Buck calls Jules and she does pick up because she wants to go back to Odyssey. And he's like, you know what? You belong there. And then she's just like... oh no, and then she's just like, I want my music career back, but now I have to, like, fix it because everyone's really mad at me and they don't want me to, like, be a star anymore because I just had a live spat. And
that's a little much for one more part, but
I don't think Jules is going to become a Christian in the next episode.
No.
I don't think we have enough time for that.
But we don't have time for all of that.
We don't have time for that. We don't have time for your feelings, Jules. We have all these other feelings we have to address first.
And skirts made out of milk cartons.
I thought it was bottle caps.
There was something with bottle caps. I don't know.
It was like a dress made out of bottle caps. And I was thinking, like, I could definitely see someone wearing that. Like fuzzy elephant feet boots, and I was thinking, like, I could definitely see someone wearing that. I will stand whatever singer gets on stage wearing the fuzzy flipper slippers.
Miss Piggy.
I said singer wearing them on stage. She didn't wear them on stage.
So
she wore them while with her mink friend. Ooh. Who was never seen again after that. Special.
Rest in peace, Maureen the mink.
So. Oh, a mink.
Did you see, I saw screenshots this morning that was like, I already knew that Disney, like, completely didn't care about Muppets now, but it's really the nail in the coffin when they put out the finale. And there's screenshots of 3 different points in the episode where there's a giant, like, Logic Pro free trial watermark in the middle of the screen in the released episode. Well, that's what I saw on Twitter.
I didn't even know that the Muppets show had started, let alone was done.
Well, they've made a couple ones in the last couple years, right?
No, there was like a Muppet show, and then it got canceled, and then they started making one for Disney+.
Anyways, yeah, which is that if it is true, that would be embarrassing on a number of levels, because not only did they care enough to notice that in a final pass or any number of final passes, but also means they wouldn't lay down $400 for the license for the software instead of using a free trial.
I really wish Disney didn't own the Muppets a lot.
Okay.
I hate how bad they treat them.
So.
My animal Muppet's over there, so I can't grab it. My arm's not long enough. Anyway, any other predictions?
No, those are my main 2 predictions.
Will Buck and Jules kiss? What do you think? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. I don't think so either. I don't think Jillian's
Christian side hug, maybe.
I don't think Jillian's going to be in the next episode either.
Yeah,
which is
probably not.
The saddest sentence I have said in a while.
Uh-huh.
It hurt me to say that.
I understand. I'm glad she was at least mentioned. It would be very weird if they didn't mention her.
I would have been so bummed out if she wasn't mentioned. She was mentioned twice in this episode, I believe.
They also dragged her for her remembering her keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. I was like, this is some good Jillian content since she's
aren't they attached to her car keys? It's happened before.
And they said that, I was like, I love Jillian so much.
Okay, so we're ready to talk about part 2?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, there's so few characters who I would say I stan.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think that word's
very overused.
Very overused, and also, like, I don't find it believable whenever someone says they stan a character. I'm like, you would really believe with literally, like, you would agree with anything they said. Like, there's so many characters I'm like, I love them, but they've done all this stuff that I don't love. There are only 3 characters I can think of right now who I, like, can 100% say I stan, and they are Kyrie, Lorium, and Jillian. And I will not back down on that statement.
Okay, so time to talk about part 2 now. So we're back now. That was a decent chunk of a break since almost just after school started, I think.
I wonder if our hair looks longer.
It probably does. For part 2 now, California Dreams Part 2, episode 903, written by Kathy Buchanan. So, we pick up from the last episode right as we find out that Jules and Jet are dating. So, Jules gets to meet Jet and his publicist, and with her publicist, Trisha, they go over the timeline of their relationship of a 3-week span from start to end. Of like just being seen together at events and eating meals and stuff, and then culminating in a charity concert where they are going to sing Jules' I'm Just Me song together, and that will be the public debut of the song, singing it as a duet, Jet and Jules.
What was your first impression of Jet, just off the bat?
I was like, he seems nice.
I was like, he seems like a sweet boy.
Yeah, I was like, he doesn't seem awful. I was like, oh, he seems like a likable person. I like that. So they go to the cafe, and Jules obviously is reticent at first, but when she talks to Jet a bit, and he starts making her laugh, and she was like, okay, he's an okay guy. Like, we just have to hang out, and then let the paparazzi, start freaking out and extrapolating and everything. And that's fine. She's like, we'll hang out, and he's a cool guy, and that's fun. So they do that, and then we see just the progression of like news headlines and Entertainment Weekly, like updates and morning talk show headlines and everything is exploding. And
a lot more time passed than I thought would pass.
Well, I think those news things were only over the course of a couple days, at least. I mean, we still did see, like, I guess, like a good... The concert wouldn't have been their breakup, so that would have been less than 3 weeks over the course of this episode.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I kind of got the vibe that it felt a bit like more like a couple months or something like that.
Well, here's the thing, because they said the whole arc of their relationship all the way until their planned breakup was only going to be 3 weeks. And remember that all those news headlines we heard was just about the very first time they were spotted in public together.
Okay.
It was because they were all still talking about seeing them at the same cafe, so that was all different shows talking about the same one event. So I think that was probably over the course of like a week that
maybe they just became felt like it was going forever, because I think basically, from what I remember of me listening to this episode, the entire time I was listening to it, I was just looping like the same route in Beast Castle over and over again.
Well, it's fair because you hear like
synthesis materials.
You hear talk shows and someone will ask another celebrity like, "Oh, who's your favorite like celeb ship right now?" And they're like, "I'm gonna have to say like Jet and Jules are like my favorite one out there." So it makes it sound like they're kind of established for a while, but it's pretty new, like a week or two earlier than you would think people would be talking about them as like, this is my favorite like celebrity couple out there.
Like the second Tom Holland got a girlfriend, people went ballistic. So
anyways, that happens. Buck and Connie are constantly calling Jules, and none of the calls are even getting through to her because they're all being screened by Kai and Jan. And then finally, we reach the night of the big performance where they're going to sing the duet of like the poppy version of I'm Just Me. And then this article comes out that basically says like Jet is over with, and he's dating Jules, just trying to cling on to his relevance. She's the new hotness. And Jet is like, you're trying to steal my career, and like right as they're getting pushed out on stage.
So mean. So I was surprised by how mean he got.
He breaks up with her on stage and is like, this is a toxic relationship and we just need to cut people out of like that out of our lives and stuff.
I was cringing real bad.
And Jules,
I didn't know what to do. And then I got killed in Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, okay, I guess it's just everything is bad.
Jules does a very impressive like optics version of like trying to like salvage the situation in front of all these people.
That'd be so mortifying though, like being on stage
in front of tens of thousands of people.
Call you out for something that's not a thing
that you didn't do. And then Buck
I
pops
got big
up.
Johnny Depp vibes from it, from whatever his wife's name.
Buck pops up from the roadie crew and is like, I'm here, I'll sing with you, guitar, and then they sing.
Like the thing is, Buck appeared like mid-episode, just like as everyone was moving things in, like all the roadies, and then he had like one line where like Jet was like, move that thing over there, and then you just hear like, oh, okay, and I heard that, I was like, that is Buck. And then he just keeps on going.
It wasn't supposed to be a surprise that was Buck.
No, I know it wasn't supposed to be a surprise, but part of me was just like,
or a secret, I guess.
For someone who, I don't know, doesn't know the show super good or isn't great with voices, they might not realize that was Buck, like on the first listen or something like that.
So yeah, Buck comes out and he's like, we're singing the duet and we're singing like the original version and stuff, and it is really good.
It almost made me cry. I think it made me tear up a little bit.
And then
it was very good.
Kai is like, Jules, you've been canceled because people saw you eating ice cream and you're supposed to be pretending to be a vegan.
That was kind of funny, honestly.
But Buck, come on, you got to do this and stuff. And he was like, nah. And then Kai...
He was just like, everyone loves Buck and all the things he was saying. I was like, these were just literally the reviews for album 53. Like, is all the things he's saying to Buck.
And then Kai reveals exactly what I predicted in part 1, which is that he had seen the video of Jules singing at the Riley Clemens farm, and that was the reason he asked Jan to, like, we need to bring Jules back here so we can be a family, was because he already knew he was a singer and he wanted to try and scout her and be like a talent parent louse.
And like Jan dumps him, and it's so satisfying. Like, it was good.
Yeah. And then Jules comes back.
I was like kind of worried that maybe Jan either wouldn't find out about like Kai being awful, or she would deny it.
The biggest thing that I wanted out of this episode that we didn't get, maybe we'll get it in the next album, is
Mr. Skint.
No.
I was wrong about that prediction that Kai's Mr. Skint. And he's trying to seduce his not son's girlfriend's mom.
His not son's not girlfriend's mom. The biggest thing that I wanted was seeing Valerie's reaction to like turning on every single entertainment show and seeing Jules be the biggest name in like pop music, female singers.
See, if that
and
happened,
dating Jet Valentine.
What I think would happen is it would be kind of like there was this thing in the last season of Hannah Montana where like those two bullies at her school, after they found out Miley was Hannah Montana, you see them in the last episode and they're like in the same college dorm as Miley and Lily, and they're just like, oh, Miley, we always thought you were super cool and we're best friends and stuff, and she's like, no, you weren't. And I could just imagine Valerie doing something like that.
I'm curious if we're gonna get to see like repercussions of that once Jules comes back, like people actually reacting to like, hey, we saw you on like every magazine cover in the grocery store for like 2 weeks. Like,
that'd be cool.
It's pretty crazy, like, is what they're gonna think when she comes back to Odyssey, I imagine. So I'm curious to see what the reaction is going to be, because it will be very weird if there's no addressing like the social follow through of that once she comes back to school.
I think it's kind of going to be like a Reagan mob psycho thing where like Reagan was on TV and stuff like that one episode, and he got really popular and blew up after he had the fight with Mob, where in the future every now and then a character's just like, hey, you're that guy who was on TV, but it just happens like
I feel like this is more significant though, because a high school ecosystem is a lot more condensed kind of than that. And it wasn't just like
Valerie's
Jules,
be
you were on TV.
Twice as nasty though.
It's not just like, hey Jules, you were on TV. It's like, hey Jules, you were dating Justin Bieber. You were the most popular celebrity ship in Hollywood for 2 weeks.
But Valerie, though, is going to be so mean about it. Yeah. She's going to be like, wow, you were such a failure. Like, you couldn't even date this guy and hold him down or whatever.
Yeah. I know. I'm curious to see, like, how is that going to play out? Because I don't see any reasonable way of not addressing that in the future.
Definitely.
So, from the start of the episode, we finally meet Jet Ballantyne. And like I said, I really liked that. At the first, I was like, he actually seems like a pretty cool and likable person.
He was so nice, and then he was so mean.
I liked how, and it's very realistic, that in manufacturing the relationship, that not only, like, they didn't just say, like, oh, we're going to do a relationship, but they set, like, when is the breakup going to happen right from the start. Like, I completely understand, because I know it's a real thing, that, like, we want people to see you're capable of being relationship-y, but also have you be available so you can't be in it for too long. Because I know that for most J-pop and K-pop idols, that most of them aren't allowed to date, period, in order to theoretically stay eligible for their adoring fans.
And like that was a big thing, because I don't know if you heard about what happened on Ellen. How like they're not, just like even in their culture, like they shouldn't really be dating that much outside of someone they want like a serious committed relationship with.
Japanese or Korean culture, you mean?
What?
In Korean culture, you mean? Not Japanese, I assume.
Oh, did I say Japanese?
Well, no, but I said K-pop and J-pop.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about Korea, because BTS was on Ellen. And I guess, like, she asked them if there were any fans that they, like, hooked up with or anything like that. And they got so upset that, like, they didn't even want to talk to her, like, for the rest of the episode that they were on. And I think that was one of the early questions that she asked them in the interview, so it was even worse. And, like, I think, like, they didn't even answer the question. I think one was just, like, that is extremely inappropriate to ask us something like that.
Even in America, that would be a fairly inappropriate question.
Even in America, you shouldn't ask someone that. But the fact that, like, especially for Korea, you shouldn't ask them that. It's just, Ellen shows it.
Given that, like, kind of toxic aspect of idol culture, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, like, seeing that reflected here. Like, oh, we've planned this relationship for you, but it's not going to last long. We've already planned how the breakup ends, because we want people to kind of, like, see you in a romantic scenario so they can imagine themselves in that, but we also need to keep you single as much as possible so that they can, like, even more so imagine themselves in that scenario. I also liked, like, the meticulousness of, like, every single public sighting and menu item was, like, all planned right from the very start, like, on what days and everything like that all the way through.
There's a... Oh, yeah, I was thinking, like, I don't like Jet, but he's really smart at, like, playing the celebrity game. Because if you want to, like, discredit someone immediately, he, like, had the fastest way to do it, was just say, like, hey, this person has, like, abused me and stuff like that. Like, especially with someone with a following that big, like, that would be, like, instant death threats on Jules' head from, like, every single one of his fans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was, like, a smart play by him. Awful thing to do, but, like, very effective with getting her dethroned.
So yeah, we see Buck show up on Jet's roadie crew. So I guess Connie probably paid for the flight to California.
I don't know.
I assume Buck had the plan and told Connie, and because I don't know where he'd get the money.
I don't know.
But it'd be weird if he asked
Connie and Eugene and Katrina just being like, Connie, where's our son? And she's like, you'll get mad if I tell you. And Eugene's like, Connie, where is my son?
Connie just didn't even think to ask Eugene about it. She's like, we need to get Jules back. And Buck's like, I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to sneak. I'm going to like he literally said like he pickpocketed like a security pass to get backstage and stuff. Like he told Connie the plan. She's like, absolutely. Here's my credit card. Go hop on a plane. And then Eugene's like, hey, if you...
And then you know what? Buck was probably like, oh, can you tell Eugene and Katrina? And she's like, oh yeah, sure. And then she was like in the middle of a shift or something like that. And she totally forgot. And Eugene and Katrina are like, hey, Buck was at Wit's End yesterday. He said he wanted to talk to you about Jules. Do you know where he is? And Connie's like, ooh, you should sit down.
And it's not just like, oh, I sent him on a plane like across the country, but I sent him on a plane across the country to try and like sneak his way onto a road crew for like a
where he gets in a fist fight on national television with Justin Bieber.
I was gonna say like,
didn't he punch him in the face or something like that?
No, there was no physical altercation.
Why not? He should have.
But like, I was gonna say it's almost like she sent him to run off to join the circus, but that would be like a little too on the nose for Buck.
I had a friend who was invited to join the circus.
I know.
When he was like in grade 9 or something like that.
I know.
It's so funny. Every single time I think about it, I'm like, I can't believe that happened.
I know. I had a friend who did circus school.
Yeah, but that's different. That's different from being on a field trip.
I know.
And then having a circus troupe
try
come
to
up to you because they saw you
trip.
dancing.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you're really flexible. Want to join our circus? 12-year-old.
Yeah, I know. It's still crazy to me. He was a very good dancer.
He was. He had no bones in his body.
So, yeah, Buck just, like, comes through. I love, like, I want to know what Buck's original plan was, because he already says, like, oh, I made friends with the sound crew and they wanted to help me out because, like, they all hate Jet. But he doesn't say what they were going to help him out with, because no one knew until 10 seconds before they went on stage that Jet wasn't going to sing with Jules because of the article and stuff. So what was Buck's plan?
Walkie-talkies just quickly spout off a plan, unless he had contingencies, which I could see Buck doing.
Like, I mean, he had the lucky microphone with him, so were the sound guys just going to mute? Were they just going to play, like, the correct version of the song, and they were just going to mute Jet and, like, give all of the mic to Buck and Jules?
Yeah,
and
like Lizzie McGuire movie
Jet was just going to be out there with no audio.
Yeah, Lizzie McGuire movie. Where they, like, have the one guy who's
with the lip syncing. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and then they turn on his mic and
yeah. Yeah, I'm curious if that was Buck's plan, because he never really explains it, and clearly his plan wasn't exactly whatever went down there, because he couldn't have predicted what happened. But it was still, like, that was an incredible gesture from Buck. Like, he flew all the way across the country, and then, like, it's like, I'm here.
I predicted that, like, before we even listened to the two-parter.
The Buck was going to follow her there?
Yeah.
So,
although
I wasn't
thought, like, maybe he would just straight up follow her at the beginning, but he did get there eventually.
I did not expect him to show up there. It was very romantic and, like, very well planned.
It was so good.
And the song...
Every single time, I'm like, I don't really ship these two. The show's like, are you sure about that? And I'm like, I don't know anymore.
The song is so good, and, like...
It was really good. It was really sweet.
The thing that's so good, and I don't know if you heard, because you listened to it right after, the bonus feature on the album.
I did listen to the bonus feature.
About the writing of the song, but the thing that's so good about this song is, like when we compare it to, like, the previous episode for a song where we had, like, I mean,
It
and that's
has,
kind of a low bar because, like...
It's a different melody, for one.
Because all of the songs
which
are the
is
same
already,
melody.
like, a huge improvement. Good job, Jules.
But it's also, like, it was a non-conventional rhyme structure. It was a non-conventional, like, melodic structure and stuff like that. I mean, the chords were still pretty standard, but, like, it was a creative melody. The phrase and the stanzas were interesting and the rhyming and stuff like that. So, like, it was a good song. Like, it sounded like not just like a simple, like, A, B, C, B kind of lyrics and stuff. And the harmonies between Buck and Jules were really good. And, yeah.
No, those harmonies, though,
They
with
could have...
Shona and Robbie, I was just like, it's so good.
It's just nice because
so
they very easily could have just written, like, a much simpler song that would have been, like, a lot quicker to write for the episode, but they took the time and the effort, as shown in the bonus feature, to, like, write something that actually felt like a real song.
Yeah, and, like, it kind of reminded me of, so you know how, like, there's the different versions of the song that they, like, wrote and stuff like that?
Yeah.
There's this movie called Ready or Not, which is a horror movie. It's really weird, where, like, it's about this woman who gets married into this crazy family.
Oh, the hide and seek movie?
Yeah, it's the hide and seek movie. And she's wearing a wedding dress for the entire movie. And, like, over the course of the movie, it gets more and more destroyed. But, and it's just, like, completely different by the end. But there's this costume designer who made the dress, and she put out this YouTube video, and it showed that there were, like, 8 different versions of the dress or something like that for, like, each stage of the movie. And it was, like, really cool, and just, like, all the different versions of the song for the different scenarios, kind of.
Well, I mean, these are more just different covers for different genres.
I don't care. I like it when, like, they take the time to just, like, show what a song is like in the different scenario they need it for and stuff. Even if it's just, like, slight changes and, yeah.
So, yeah. And then, like I said, I called it. Kai just brought her in from day one because he saw her singing online and then pretended that he just heard her in the kitchen singing to herself. And then Jan was like, I can't believe that you lied to me about, like, the reason for all of this and wanting to build a family and stuff just so that you could take advantage of Jules. And then she's like, I really have the worst taste in men, don't I? And I was like, yes, Jan,
like, yeah.
You categorically have the worst taste in men.
I said yes as I was listening, and I was thinking, like, this line, Devin is just gonna cling to this line like it's a lifesaver.
Jules was like,
drowning off
Jules
the Titanic.
was like, no, and then she was like, okay, yes, you do, and I was like, yeah, like, literally, you married Bill Kendall. I mean, with all respect to June, like, you married Bill Kendall, then you almost got married.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Got married to Kai. It wasn't until the second time through the episode that I caught the joke. Because when Jules got flowers and Kai was like, oh, I thought it might be from, like, that kid who keeps calling the house Brick or whatever. And she's like, Buck. And he was like, yeah, weird name. And I just thought it was kind of him being, like, dismissive of, like, oh, whatever that weird small town hick is. I didn't catch until the second time through that it was supposed to be a joke because his name is Coyote. And he was saying, like, Buck, that's a weird name.
Oh. Yeah.
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 I kind of forgot, like, oh yeah, he has a much weirder name.
Jules' relief to, like, not have to wear the outfits anymore, and Buck's like, yeah, what is this? What is this?
And then at the end, she comes back to Odyssey, and then Buck's like, you have to join the worship team, and you have to wear your bottle cap dress with your elephant boots.
I was kind of surprised that Jules was like, yeah, okay, like, I'll join the worship team.
Did she actually acquiesce in the end?
I think it was just kind of, like, implied that she would be.
Well, I think it was like,
cool,
we're kind of, like, soft, like, arguing about it. I don't think there was any yes-no confirmation.
I don't know about lots of people watching, but they have, like, they're really picky for most worship teams about who's allowed to join and who's not and stuff. I'm just saying if it was like the church in Castlegar, I don't know if Jules would be allowed to be on the worship team.
What do you mean, because she's not a Christian?
Yeah.
Maybe so. Yeah, it really depends church to church. Yeah, so that's the episode. A lot of it is just kind of like seeing this ascending whirlwind of how fast Jules' career is going from like no one's ever heard of her to like she is every single headline, which is pretty crazy when you think about how short the time span is that things are going on. Because she'd only like, they were like, oh, he's dating this singer Jules Kendall, but up to this point I think her like opener for Jet's concert was the only time she'd performed in public before.
Yeah.
So she was like, I'm so popular. Most of you have never heard me sing. I probably don't have, like, I guess I probably would have recorded some covers that we would have just put up for sale, but, like, otherwise, like, I don't even have... I mean,
it sounds like they recorded, like, all her songs, and they...
I know, but apart from that, she wouldn't even have any albums for people to
buy.
No
Also,
wonder she only made $47.
She does have all of her old songs that are still online, and I know, like, a lot of, you can find, like, certain people who still have, like, old versions of their songs on YouTube that you can find that now have, like, tons of views because the person, like,
yeah, I guess so, but I'm saying in terms of, like, proper, like, professional music artist monetization of and production of content. This is a very short window between premiere and I am super famous. Which, I mean, is fair. Like, if that happened, it's no wonder Jules is so, like, you know, whirlwind swept up and, like, not being able to keep up with everything. That is, like, an absolute asymptote rocket ship of fame.
I mean, like, if Kai's really big enough, then I think he would be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
But I don't know if any of those people watching the concert are anything like me, watching the John Mulaney concert, you kind of remember what the opener did, but you don't remember their name at all, so you can never look them up again.
Well, that's the thing. And she was, like, opening for the opener for him. So, like, the point of an opener is, like, to get people warmed up, but also, like, if people aren't there on time. So when you have multiple openers, the idea is, like, the only people who are going to see the first one are, like, the 10% of people who got there an hour early. So, I mean, people are probably camped out for a Jet Valentine concert, but I still feel like people are only just going to be like, getting through the door, getting their tickets in and stuff like that, or at concession and stuff, while Jules would have been singing.
So a lot of people never been to a concert before.
I haven't either, but I think that's how the general structure works like that. I'm theorizing.
I've been to, like, orchestral concerts, and I've been to a John Mulaney show, and the John Mulaney show is the closest I've ever been to, like, seeing a professional entertainment show of the non-Broadway instrumental percussion variety.
Yeah.
I don't really have that much to say about this episode, honestly. I mean, we got like most of the, like, content to really dive into was in the last
in part one.
Half.
Yeah,
or part one.
Yeah,
because, like you said, there was so much, like, build up in the first half of this episode that basically just all of that we already talked about in part one because we knew it was going to happen. So,
do I want to give it? I'm
gonna give it a 4.
I'm gonna say
it didn't, like, blow me away, but I think it was good for her arc and, like, pretty serviceable, and the acting and the music was really good.
I'm going to say 4.8 overall. Not perfect, but I really liked it. I'm glad we finally got to hear Jan for the first time and kind of hear her kind of talk about, like, her relationship with Jules that isn't just from Jules' perspective. I'm glad that we got to see, like, Jules' arc reach this natural progression of, like, here's what I want to do with my music, and then get the chance to do it and see what that does. It was like a big turning point for Buck and Jules' relationship. And we got to see a lot more like kind of pop culture-y stuff in Odyssey. And yeah, the song in the end, the writing of the song and the performance of it by Shona and Robbie was fantastic.
It was really good. They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember like what the first half of album 69 was earlier today. And I was thinking about like, oh yeah, the Word ad and all that stuff. I was like, no, that was last album. And also the OAC, we just reviewed everything.
When I re-listened to Right Out Revelations, I was like, I can't believe this is only the second time I've listened to it.
I did actually rewatch our episode, or I guess just watch our episode on Rydell Revelations. Also, a lot of people left really nice comments on that episode. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think you'll
ignore that.
So, that's it for this episode. Now we need to talk about album 69 as a whole.
Nice.
So,
what if you could summarize this album in one
word?
What would it be?
Nice. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. So
nice out of 10.
Yeah. We'll stop our recordings here so we can talk about the whole shebang. Okay. So album 69, Best Kept Secrets. We're at the end now. There's really only, like you said, 3 episodes in this album.
So what's your ranking? What's good, medium, and bad?
I can get my ranking pretty easy on this one. Rydell Revelations, California Dreams for a song.
Oh, what a coinky dink. Mine is for a song, California Dreams, and Rydell Revelations, because I hated it. No, mine's the same as yours.
Yeah, it was probably the easiest ranking that we've ever done on this podcast.
Oh, can you imagine if it was like Ties That Bind or something like that, where it was just like all
the same thing,
just parts and no names.
So, the Rydell Revelations, this episode, listening through it again, it did such an incredible job at toying with our assumptions and expectations early on. Like, there are some things that I was able to figure out at least, but clearly there was still toying with expectations because you didn't catch on to it. Like the way
we didn't go into the 3-parter and say, hey, it's only 1 minute into part 1 and I know that, but I really have a strong hunch that Tasha's gonna show up.
No, what I mean with like, similar to In a Sun-Scorched Land, the way how Joseph never said he was a janitor, but it played on our assumptions very heavily to make us think that he said that he was, until we went back and listened to it. In that same way, when Emily confronts Suzu, everything that Suzu says the first time through, playing on our assumptions and expectations, it really makes it sound like she freaks out when Emily brings up Maury because she's worried that Emily is onto them. And same thing when she asks about Mrs. Mado, it sounds like she's scared because Emily is onto everything that she's been doing. But then the second time through, going through it, you realize that all of the dialogue is concern, like, she was freaked out when Emily mentioned Maury because she was worried that Emily was going to say that, like, something had happened to Maury, that Mrs. Mado had already gotten to him. Mm-hmm. She was scared of Mrs. Mado. When she arrived at her room and she saw that it had been destroyed, the way that she said, oh no, it was very distinctly like she was panicked, but she was not shocked to see it. Because she was like, oh no, this is the thing that happened, but I understand why this has happened. So I'm frightened about it, but I'm not like shocked to see that it has happened, because it's a scary thing, because she had no reason to believe that Mrs. Mado was already onto her and knew that she had the Maple figurine yet, since Tasha had contacted her. But the fact that she came home and her room was already destroyed means Mrs. Mado is already onto her, and she's already, like, showing her hand. She's already not scared of, like, not being subtle about going after it, which meant that she was in imminent danger. Maury is in imminent danger, like, even more so than she already thought. And so it recontextualizes everything that we saw from part 1 with Suzu. now that we know what was actually going on. So I really liked how it was all read in a different light back when we were seeing what we thought was going on in terms of like Maureen, Suzu, and Emily before we knew what was actually going on. So that was very good writing.
I forgot to tell you, I had a dream like last week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an Odyssey dream,
Mm-hmm.
which I haven't had one of those in a very, very long time.
Uh-huh.
Where Wit was just being like a huge jerk. And it happened after this episode. And he was just being horrible and doing all these horrible things. And then I was like, later, I was trying to remember like what it was to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I did remember something like that, and I was just like, I should have known I was dreaming, because like, what wouldn't do something like that? And then I paused, I was like, wait, no, apparently he would. Never mind, everything is bad now.
I also really liked in part 2 how as soon as Maury found out at the beginning that Mrs. Mado had been like giving Wit like journal entries from him and stuff like that, Maury was like, I'm so betrayed. I can't believe you were a spy this whole time for Mr. Whittaker. And especially Mrs. Mado for a second is like, yes, I was spying on you for Mr. Whittaker.
Can you imagine if like she came clean because of Maury's wording right there? And she's like, oh, you knew I'm spying on you for your father. And,
he's like, I can't believe you were a spy. Like, and then she like,
I'm sorry, what?
She throws down a smoke bomb and jumps through the second-story window, and Wit's like...
And Maury's just sitting there, he's like, oh my gosh, what is happening today?
Yeah, it was good. The pacing, I think, is still, like, bizarre, but, like, in a good way. Like, I get it. I get why it had to be that way in order to, like, set up the story, and I really like it. But it is very unconventional in the way that it's set up. I like the way everything executed out. I'm glad that Tasha came back for it. All the funny things that we pointed out before, like Raymond's grand, like all according to Keikaku, getting Wit to raise his children after all this time.
I know I've said it before, but I'll say again, like I might be a little bit thrown by unconventional pacing at the beginning of a story, but like as long as it has a good enough payoff and I like remain invested, then I'll really, really end up enjoying like the weird pacing.
Yeah, and I don't think we mentioned it in our initial review, and JB was the one who pointed out in a later comment, because you pointed out that when they reference how using the imagination box.
Oh yeah, you and I were talking about this.
Using it to transform the appearance of Tasha into another, like a real person into another person, instead of just like someone's clothes changing, but them looking like a whole different being. Doing that sort of thing, especially in the AR kind of context, instead of inside of the imagination station, and it's like, combined with some other technology I've been working on.
Well, Devin thought it was like literally just like transforming the person, but I was saying like the person looks the same. It's just like mentally connecting to people who are watching.
What? No, I was saying it's still the imagination station. Like it's still just giving the illusion that someone.
No, I know. I'm saying like it's still just straight up Tasha like standing there.
Yeah.
But like it's like sending a signal to Miss Mado's brain
to make her think it looks like.
Yeah.
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 No, that wasn't the confusion. It was that I think you said like, oh, maybe that was a reference to like the Renee's thing in the world of Watonia, the like shape-shifting like disguise device.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think so, because that isn't really the same thing. But then I think it was JB pointed out to me later that it's possible that we were reading the Renee device entirely wrong, and that it was already operating, like, because it was like, oh, it's working outside of the station, so is it like physically transforming her body in a way that doesn't make sense? But it's like, no, that was already operating on imagination box type technology, where that was doing the same thing as this, like looking at the other way around. That was a device that uses like the same kind of invasive like brain technology to make someone perceive you as something other than you are. And I guess even kind of to yourself, like what happened to Renee when she looked and she was like, ah.
Which, again, is basically extremely Nova Boxy.
It is.
Makes me very uncomfortable.
It is incredibly
Don't
Nova
like
Boxy.
that at all.
It should make us very uncomfortable, especially because now Maury already stole it and co-opted it for his own purposes. Like, it has already been taken advantage of for nefarious purposes, like an album ago, immediately upon invention.
There have been like so many times since listening to this 3-parter where I've just been sitting and then I think like, wow, Whit has 2 more kids now, and I really need the next album because I just really want I want this.
But yeah,
I want Connie and Eugene and Katrina and Whit to take their teenage kids to daycare where they just complain the whole time because they're teenagers and why are they in a daycare?
This specific use of the imagination station technology is like the single closest application that we've ever seen of it to like the function that it was used for in the radio wave study.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think once you look at it like that, like, oh, that's what was happening with Renee, it was like imagination station kind of technology, but it's working outside of an enclosed environment where it wasn't physically transforming her, but it was giving the illusion, like invading everyone's brains around her, that's what she looked like. It makes a lot more sense. Mm-hmm. And so then Whit incorporated that back into Maury's imagination box. So it was really like kind of back incorporating it into something that it was already more kind of designed to work with. It's almost practically the same thing, really.
I'm looking forward to next album where Maury takes over the world and then Whit just sits back like the "this is fine" dog.
Yeah.
And then someone comes up to him and they're like, why didn't you stop him? And he's like, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to watch and see what happens.
Yeah. Whit has a very like Aradia take to it. Like, you know, I just want to see the world burn. I just kind of want to see what this place looks like when it all goes up in smoke. Like, Whit.
Whit's just gone senile. That's what it is. He's just so old and confused. And he's just like, hey, what if we did do a bad murder thing?
Whit's like, I'm 95 years old. It is my turn to just sit back and relax and watch someone else take care of it for once, you know?
It's like when you see movies or TV shows or something like that, and everyone's like, oh no, where's Grandpa Joey? And then they turn around and then like the grandpa character is doing something like horrible or something like that. And they're like, oh, we need to keep an eye on this man or something horrible will happen. That's who it is now. He's your senile old grandpa.
Go chop that firewood, make sure the axe is nice and sharp.
Who is just making so many mistakes. And on one hand, I'm filled with anger, but on the other hand, part of me just wants to see how bad it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it can't get much worse than the escape room. I want him to
start acting normal again.
I feel like the escape room was about as bad as it could get without someone actually dying. I still have to say, in the end, really glad that Whit decided to take the kids, and super, super, super glad that they did not try and fit Emily's emotional resolution to all of this stuff into this episode, and just have her be, one, because it's realistic that after the genuine mental trauma that she went through, that she is going to need time to process all of this emotionally to figure out how she feels about it, but also because we did not have the runtime to work through all of that in this moment. So I'm glad that she was like not in this episode, and for a very plot realistic reason, but also for a very good writing reason. Like, we are going to deal with that later. That is going to be at least one future episode of me trying to like unpack all of the emotions, all of these very complex emotions
too.
Yeah, it is
Far From Home.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like a little doodle of Emily like post Green Ring, and she's like, wow, Buck really broke my trust a whole lot, and I was really hurt. Boy, oh boy, sure hope nothing bad happens to me. And then it just shows her turning and walking away into a door that says Rydell Arc. Oh, honey.
For a song, I don't have anything new to say about it.
Jules wrote like 50 viral songs.
That was the same song.
And the only thing she did was change 2 words in each song.
Yeah. She and Valerie competing for the music. This was really the first, like the only episode that set up that Jules is writing her own music and not just
feel like this
singing
episode was
music.
Just kind of like a stepping stone.
Yeah, which I predicted even in our album predictions. I was like, I think this is going to be about Jules because they need at least one episode before she leaves to establish more like stuff about her singing career desires. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. So yeah, this episode really just existed to not only set up the fact that like, oh, Jules is writing her own songs now and that she is expressing the desire to maybe like do this professionally, but also kind of showing her emotional stake in it. Like as she's competing against Valerie, it's showing like, oh, she really wants this and she's like willing to sacrifice kind of things that she shouldn't be sacrificing in terms of like proper moral judgment or relationships around her in order to like try and make this a thing for her.
I just had a flashback to 2 months ago where the moral of an episode was, aren't babies cute?
Yeah. Yeah, so this
Buck
episode
was really good in this episode.
It really set up like that part of Jules' character, plot-wise and character-wise, to prime like the much more dramatic stakes that would be in play in the finale. Mm-hmm. So it really exists just to kind of like, you know, it's a set. It's a set to the spike that is the finale.
Also, I don't really think I said it, but like Buck and Jules having a fight for the song leads really well into them like being upset with each other again and just like not together at all in California Dreams.
Yeah, it was kind of like
California Dreams.
It was kind of like how Karen comes immediately before Connie, part 1 and 2. I guess I wasn't even thinking about that in the sense that Connie part 1 and 2 is literally the most analogous episode to California Dreams. But yeah, in the sense that just like it's a 2-parter and here's one before that's like separate, but it like leading directly up. In this case, definitely 1,000 times more so than Karen. Karen is very much its own standalone amazing episode, and it only tangentially kind of like helps set up Connie's side of things in Connie.
The only Karen we had within these 3 episodes was
Jan.
And
Trisha.
I don't remember who Trisha is.
Jules' publicist.
Yeah, her too.
So, then we have California Dreams.
Wait, sorry, really quick. For the song, I thought all the characterization was pretty spot on, especially with, we talked about this in the review, Jules not caring about her fans was something I didn't like when it came to Valerie being like, I'm going to spill everyone's secrets. And Jules was like, I dare you. Was something I didn't like, but was in character, and it felt right for like her to do. And then there was like that new girl who had like a crush on Buck and
Savannah.
Yeah, and then Buck just like sleuthing and then finding like all those other artists and then getting the credit to them, and I thought it was good.
So, I also thought it was funny re-listening to that episode because at the very beginning, well, not the very beginning, once Jules releases her first song and she starts becoming popular, Valerie comes to her and offers to do a collab with her. And the thing Valerie says is she's like, normally I have a policy against singing other people's songs, but I'll make an exception for you, just this one, which is a pretty funny line once you realize that she's plagiarized every single song that she's posted.
Valerie's like, if I sing it, that makes it my song.
Yeah,
so
it's very
that's
like,
not plagiarism.
you made this.
People are like, Valerie, do you understand
I
what plagiarism
made
is? She's like, I've never plagiarized in my life because that person said that thing, but then I said it, so technically I'm the one who said it. And they're like, Valerie, that's not how plagiarism works.
Valerie is like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Valerie. She quotes it off The Office.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, like, Valerie is gonna go to university or college or whatever, and she's immediately gonna get kicked out for plagiarizing, like, all of her essays and getting people to rate her essays, and yeah.
So California Dreams, obviously we just talked about it. I really liked the episode. Like I said, when I summarized it, I'm really glad that we finally got to hear from Jan, that we finally got to see Jules in a context outside of being in Odyssey, and like, acting in her old world, like getting to see her back in a different social paradigm.
It was very Connie-ish, where it's like, even though you didn't see what this character was like back in California, you can immediately tell without them having to spell it out for you. Or other characters just straight up saying, like, you've really changed, even though they do that. Like, she's acting completely differently than she normally would be acting. Which is just, like, that's on good writing.
Yeah, it was good. It was good Buck Jules content. It was good Jules content. It was just like,
the music was good.
It was the biggest culmination of Jules' arc that we've had thus far as a character.
Mm-hmm. I guess, like, Buck's was the 2-parter with Mr. Skint.
3-parter, the long end.
3-parter. Yeah. And then this was, like, the equivalent for Jules.
Yeah, and they certainly both have more character stuff to go, but that is the biggest climax that we've had so far. I wouldn't say the first climax, because at least for Buck, I would say the end of the Green Room Conspiracy was his first character climax.
Yeah. I mean, Buck does have, like, the added benefit of he's been a character way longer than Jules has been a character.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Not really that much longer when you think about it. 57 and 53, that's only 2 years.
Yeah, and he was gone for lots of that, but still, like, he was established before she was, so it makes sense that, like, his arc would be before her arc was, and that he would have, like, he's grown more than she has.
Yeah. Man, yeah, and Buck didn't even come back until after Jules had already come to Odyssey. So, like, man, that's weird.
Yeah, but, like, he also has all that time to, like, contemplate. Yeah. Like, contemplate things. And... They
both arrived in Odyssey long term at the same time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was in album 58. Yeah, it's crazy that, like, even Jules, like, she first arrived on the scene in album 57, and this was album 69. And I mean, I know that it's still 2 albums a year, anyways. Like, even though they're shorter, because then we also have the AIOC. So that's still the same amount of time as we would expect mathematically, like 2 seasons a year. That's a long time that she's been around now. 6 years?
Oh, by the way, speaking of new albums, do we have any idea when the next one's gonna...
I mean, the episode should air in December, same as they always do.
Oh, cool. I don't know. We're never caught up like we are right now. So... Yeah, so this album overall, I'm going to give it a 4.8. It was, like, I mean, that's the same rating I gave to California Dreams, and The Ride Out Revelations was half the album. That was a 5 out of 5. Like, this is a very good album just because 5 out of the 6 episodes were 2 episodes that are both extremely good. One of them was absolutely fantastic. That was for a song.
Yeah. It was a good album.
I'm going to give it a 4.6 out of 5. Really good album. Incredibly strong opening.
Yeah.
I feel like that maybe set my expectations a little bit too high for the finale, though.
For an arc that we've been having like 7 years in the making.
Yeah. Part of me kind of feels like I wish that For a Song was the opener, even though it's like not a super strong episode in like a conventional opener.
No, I'm glad it was the order it was, because it had to pick up right where the last album left.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say like Rydell of Revelations is like the finale, but
that'd be weird, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That doesn't work with it picking up after. Man, the music at the beginning of Rydell Revelations slapped so hard that it was so good.
Victoria, what are we doing next time?
A book?
Yep. What book?
Sweet. My Kindle's over there. I can't reach it. We are going to be talking about... I'm going to look up the name real quick on my Goodreads. The next Blackgaard novel, which is called Rooks. Maybe not.
We definitely already did that one.
Ruse. That's not what it is. I think that one was my favorite one, though. I want to say it was the third one. It's loading really slow.
You could have just Googled it faster than this.
Anticipation.
It's just the next Blackgaard novel. You know, the title will be in the
Night Scheme.
Okay, so until then...
Book 5 of the Blackgaard Chronicles.
Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Dr. Blackgaard.
And we're done. We're done album 69, baby.
Nice.
Nice.
I haven't got to say it for a while because I've been the one saying the album number.
You can still say it even if you're the one
I know,
who says
but you
it.
also say it, so then it feels like too much. I don't want to overdo it. We've already
No,
had it a lot.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
If it was an isolated thing and not something we said 100 times an episode for the last 7 episodes, then...
Dude, do you have any idea how many times we've said Jeff Lewis within the past several years?
Anyways, so... Thank you for joining us. We already said that. Goodbye.
Yeah. Leave.